Week 4. This week's lesson is about the writing process and outlining. We will also get Essay 2 started. So there's a lot coming at you today, not near as much as in last week's video. I got that finished up and realized it was almost 2 hours long. Now, I don't feel bad about that because we would have been in the classroom for 2 hours and 40 minutes had we actually been in the classroom environment together. I think that's the right amount. Classes run from 8 o'clock class is over at 9:20. So hour and 20 minutes. Yeah. So that lecture, don't feel so bad about it, but I did cut it short. So anyway, you guys can see I'm not a mathematician and it took me a little while to do that. It's fine. I'm an English teacher. I don't have to be good at math. Anyway, outlining and the writing process. I'm excited about today's message. Message. Oh, and that bug that I was trying to think of, the bug that eats wood, termites. I came up with that. I was so proud of myself. So, termites, yes, we don't want termites in the wood. That being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into the materials. Woo! Yes. Get this up and running and get it to where I can click on slideshow. It likes to take its sweet time. I think it's my computer. I think my computer is slowing down because I have so much on it, I think is what the deal is. So, and that just is what it is. I can't do anything about it. Not right now, anyway. All right. So here we are, the writing process and outlining. I'm clicking things all over the place. There we go. Stephen King quote for today is, "Just remember that Dumbo didn't need the feather. The magic was in him." And if you haven't seen that movie, Dumbo, old Disney flick, should give it a little watch. Right? Dumbo thought he had to hold the feather to fly, and turns out he didn't. The magic was in him. He just had to let go and trust and go for it. So much like all of us. The magic's already in you. You just have to learn to let it out. We're going to begin today with this fellow. His name is Bryan Johnson, and he has a YouTube channel called Philosopher's Notes. Um, I kept this in the PowerPoints from my previous Stephen King curriculum just because I enjoy the things that he's talking about, and I think that they're still valuable for us in our current class. So he is going to be giving you a breakdown on this book. So I told you about this book before, showed it to you last week. This is On Writing by Stephen King. Excellent resource. It's a textbook on writing written by Stephen King, and it's part memoir, part writing advice. Excellent resource. And so this gentleman, Bryan Johnson, has read the book and is going to give you his 5 top takeaways from On Writing by Stephen King. And at the conclusion of this video, we will discuss, well, I will discuss the things that he says. So here, without further ado, is Bryan Johnson, Philosopher's Notes TV on YouTube, discussing the book On Writing. I'm over here waving at him. All right. So in that video, Brian Johnson talks about the big ideas that he took from Stephen King's On Writing textbook. The first idea that he took is Spike's, and Spike's growth mindset. He's talking about accept failure, accept rejection, accept critique, relish it, love it, crave it. Because without those things, we don't know how to grow. We don't know what areas where we need to do some work, right? We don't know how to get better without those things. So fail more, put yourself out there, be okay with rejection, get critique. We need it in order to be the very best versions of ourselves that we can be. We need those things. We need to accept them, embrace them, let them make us better. Good stuff. The second one, Man Muse, talking about inspiration. What inspires you? What inspires you to do well? What's inspired you to be in college? Don't lose track of that. Keep hold of your inspiration. Now, my inspiration for writing my very first story is this picture right here that you're looking at. And I'm going to prove it to you because here's the original that I laminated with contact paper years ago and hung in my kitchen. Here's the original. I love this lady. First time I saw her, I thought, I want to be just like her. Like, this is me when I grow up. I'm not going to tell you the whole story about how I came across the picture, but I will tell you that this lady became Adeline in my first book, A Kiss in the Rain. And the book is mostly centered around Adeline's story. We have two main characters, Adeline and Danielle. And Adeline is in her 80s and Danielle is in her 20s, and the two women become friends. And it's about things that happen in their lives that their friendship helps them navigate through. And it all started with this picture. So Adeline is my name for her. She's one of my inspirations, and I absolutely adore who she is in my head. And so she became a German lady in my head when in reality she's Cuban. And her real name is Graziella. And I don't know that Graziella is with us anymore because this was probably 14 years ago that I found this picture, 14 or 15 years ago. And she was old then. But Graziella would sit in the windowsill or other windowsills dressed crazy as a loon and smoke cigars and charge tourists to take her picture. Like if you wanted to take her picture, you had to give her $1. This is what I read about her. I came across her just typing old woman cigar in on the internet. You still probably can too, but there probably won't be as many pictures now as there used to be of Graziella, but I was able to find her story. Somebody had taken the time to talk to her and they included a little bit of information about her with one of the pictures they took of her. So, oh, love her, love her. But in my book, she became a little old German lady named Adeline. So, anyway, inspiration. What inspires you? Don't lose track of that. 3, prime directive, work hard. Work hard for what you want. You're in college for some reason, whatever the reason is, work hard, achieve it, absolutely achieve it. Okay. And that's up to you. That is up to you how you work hard for it. What is your prime directive? Where are you headed? What's your goal? Number 4, jumper cables. Y'all, we got to put this thing down sometimes. Absolutely need to put this thing down sometimes. Whatever is making your brain, maybe you're watching TV too much, or maybe you video game too much, or maybe you this or that, whatever it is that's keeping you from doing your work, that's keeping you from being social with friends, that's keeping you from healthy lifestyle choices. Make sure that you put those things away from time to time so you can focus on the things that are important. And Stephen King in his book talks about we have to do that with writing. And for us, that equivocates to we have to do that for our homework, right? We have to be able to put that down. And then joy, you know, what is it that you love to do? Figure that out and do that. Stephen King says he would still write even if he didn't make money at it. And he knows that because he was writing when he was a kid. He was writing as a teenager. He was submitting, getting rejection slips like by the handfuls. But he just kept doing it because he loves it. Still loves it. It's just happened to pay off for him. Whatever it is that you love to do that. Unless you're like Dexter or something. No, let's don't do that. I gotta be careful with what I say, right? So anyway, that's our little breakdown there of, oh, there's my book, Kiss in the Rain. Add a line. Okay, moving forward. Let's talk about writing. Writing, it's almost like learning a new language. The information that's coming directly here in the next few slides was taken from the textbook Everything's an Argument. This is the text that most of the adjunct professors here at TCC are required to use. I've gotten to a point where I was so familiar with the book that I decided not to make my students use it because I know you're probably not going to read it anyway. But the information's in my head, and so it's on me to make sure that you have what you need. And so I pulled out all the important parts, I think, and they are sprinkled throughout our PowerPoint presentations. And so those key points, we'll be hitting on those. But there's a chapter, it's either 4 or 7, I'm not sure. They may have changed it around by now. But everything that I'll be sharing with you does come from Everyone's an Author. I'll let you know if it's information that's coming from me, but for the most part, what we're about to encounter is from that book. So, chapter 4 of Everything's an Author is about meeting the demands of academic writing. So, what is it? What is academic writing? Well, it's writing you do for school. Big, big, big news. But it is more than that. Yes, it follows a strict set of conventions, such as using standard edited English and following logical patterns of organization, such as MLA or APA or Chicago, and providing support for the points that you make. It is also journals, newspapers, books, websites, blogs, etc., social media. Academic writing can be those things as well. You are sharing information, it will be edited information, and it makes a point. The point of the textbook quoted in this presentation on page 41, the editors wrote, and this was the whole point of the book. We want to try to demystify some of the assumptions and conventions of academic writing and get you started thinking about how to use them to your advantage. How can we use these ideas that we learn about effective academic writing? How can we use those skills, those tips, those ideas to our advantage? And what do we mean by our advantage? Woo! Guys, this is all about argument skill, all about effective argument. I told you Comp 1 is so much about soft skills / job skills / communication skills. It's all under that same umbrella. It's communication. So we learn about the demands of academic writing. We learn about, we took a look last week at some fiction writing advice that also has nonfiction value. Now we're looking at some academic writing advice, but it all comes together. For all of it, you need to know who your audience is. You need to know what are the specific things that I need to do in order to effectively reach my audience. So we're going to be looking at some information here about academic writing. But I love that textbook has that actual quote in it that we want to try to demystify some of the assumptions and conventions of academic writing and get you started thinking about how to use them to your advantage. This isn't just, oh, I went to English class, it was so boring. An English class should never be boring. And I apologize if you have had an English class in the past that was boring. It should never be, because this is argument skill, this is communication skill, this is life skill. And so we want to take a look at these things, and it is my firm belief that anything that is a writing piece of advice translates also to the spoken word and to how we communicate with one another verbally. So let's move in. Use them to your advantage? What? How? Why do I need to? You need to be able to respond with active processes. It's fine to express strong opinions, but it's also important to remember and acknowledge that there is almost surely some value in perspectives other than your own. Very important to keep that in mind. That's that whole know your audience thing. It is imperative that we remember and acknowledge that there is almost surely value in perspectives other than our own. That's that include opposing perspectives idea, like we discussed last week. Another thing that we need to do with active writing or academic writing is to ask questions. You have to take responsibility for your own learning. This is college. You are responsible for your own learning. Now, I could sit here and I could whine to you about a particular professor that I had during my bachelor's program, my first one, and I could complain. I had this person for 10 classes and didn't learn jack squat in those classes. And immature me would have really complained about that. Now, what I've come to understand since that time is it was on me, right, to thoroughly and effectively read the textbooks for those classes. It was on me to make sure that I walked away from there having learned and gained something. So take responsibility for your own learning. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Advocate for yourself. The next thing is say what you think, providing adequate support for your ideas. Okay? Anything that you're going to say, whether it's in writing or it's in speech, be able to back it up. Be able to back it up with effective research and evidence. Very important. Focus from the start. The point is not to show how much you know, but instead to provide as much information as your audience needs to understand the point easily. Here we go again. It's about the audience. The point is not to show how much you know, but instead to provide as much information as the audience needs to understand your point. What does the audience need from you in order to understand what it is that you're wanting them to hear? Remember, our point is to cause them to think and to feel. The point is not to win. The point is to cause them to think and feel. And state your point explicitly. Make sure that you are clear. And we talked about that last week as well when we were going through the How to Increase Your Word Count handout. We have to be clear. And clarity oftentimes necessitates more words. Sometimes it means we have to take some words out, but more often it means that we need more words to clarify a point, to give description, to ensure that there are unfamiliar terms that are dealt with, that our pronouns offer clarity, multiple areas where that is important. So the burden for success falls on you. The characteristic features of academic writing. Again, this is all from that textbook. We have to use standard edited English. We're going to be using Times New Roman 12-point font in this class. Classic double-spaced. Very important. Use clear and recognizable patterns of organization. So not only will we be using MLA for our formatting, but we will also be going over today outlining. And I will want your work following an outline. And it will be evident, very evident in your essays if you have used an outline or not. So we're going to walk through how to effectively do that today. Mark logical relationships between ideas. Okay, we have to be able to draw correlations between ideas. State claims explicitly and provide appropriate support. So make your point, but be able to back it up. Be able to back it up with not Wikipedia. Be able to back it up with academic sources, sources that have been peer-reviewed, sources that are legitimate, that have credibility. Present your ideas as a response to others. There's that address opposing perspectives idea again. And look, a textbook is saying it. It's not just me. It's a textbook as well. Express your ideas clearly and directly. Make sure that you are as clear as you possibly can be. Often, another person's eyes on your work is what's needed for this. Be aware of how genres and conventions vary across disciplines. So sometimes we are writing in different means. Sometimes we're writing an essay, sometimes you're writing a research paper, sometimes it's a group project, sometimes it's an individual project, sometimes it's a video blog, sometimes it's a blog, sometimes it's a video essay. There can be multiple means of projecting your message. Just make sure that you understand what it is and that you are doing what is requested and required of you. Document sources using the appropriate citation style. So if you're looking at MLA, make sure that you're using MLA. If you have to use APA, make sure that what you're doing is APA. Now, the writing process roadmap. A lot of what follows at this point now, this is coming from mostly me and my experience. Some of it is from the text, some of it is from my experience, and I've combined it all to create a writing process for you that is effective and that works. Now, my cat thinks he's a dog, and he just opened the door to my office. So I'm going to go and close it so that I am not disturbing the people in the other room. Just one moment. All right, back. So, writing process roadmap. Brownie points if you know the movie. Oh, you can't tell me, so I guess there's no brownie points. Online class. The first step in the writing process is make sure you understand the assignment. Don't leave a class or start the work unless you understand exactly what's being required of you. Make sure that you ask questions, that you know what it is that you need to do so that you are fully informed and ready. That's on you. The next step is to schedule your time. Make sure that you know when the due date is and you know how long it's going to take you to do the project, or you can at least estimate how long it's going to take, and schedule your time. Like set aside time today if it's the first day of your project to get started. Don't wait till the last minute. That's never when the best work is done. And so make sure that you're scheduling your time. Leave yourself plenty of time to do the rough draft, to have a couple of days where you breathe, then to do your editing work, then to get some critique, and then to complete that final draft. But we're going to watch all of that unroll here as we go through this process. So schedule your time. The next step is to get into your zone. And what this means is you have to figure out what is the zone that works best for you when it comes time to do work. So no single process works for everyone. Some of us do better work when we play music. Some of us do better work in the quiet. Some of us do better work if we have some coffee or something to drink. Some of us do better work in the evening. Some of us in the dark. Some of us with light. Some of us need solitude. Some of us can work better in a crowd. Some of us need snacks. I like snacks. I got not a whole drawer full, but I sure do have some Hershey bars down here in my drawer. Figure out where and what works for you and establish a pattern of behavior, a habit, so that you are training your brain that when you set the conditions that it's time to work. Okay, very important to do that for yourself. Stephen King does this. He writes and works in the morning. He gets up, he has some breakfast, he spends some time watching the news, talks to his wife, he may go for a run, but then he gets to his office, and he gets to his office around 8:30. All right. He goes with a glass of tea, and when he's doing actual writing, he has no distractions. He closes his blinds, he closes his door, he has a clean desk, and he does this at the same time every day. And he writes for 3 hours, potentially 4. Right. Now, if he is editing a draft, blinds go up, door is open, because it's mindset for him. Okay. So that's how Stephen King does it. Me personally, if I'm working on a particular project, I'm doing some writing in the evening works best. I get that like twilight brain going on where the fact that I might be concerned about what you think of what I say starts to go out the window. So if I can do some fiction writing specifically in the evening in a dark room, I have music that matches the mood of what I'm writing, no distractions. That's what works best for me, especially when I'm starting to get a little tired and loosey goosey. I'm apt to write and say things that I wouldn't say if I was fully alert. Right now, if I'm doing schoolwork, if I'm doing like PowerPoints, things like that, that's daytime, that's morning. I like to do that kind of work up until about noon. And I'm sitting here at my desk. I don't have a terribly messy desk, but I do have a few items on the desk. But I can't sit and work in complete and utter chaos. Now, Stephen King in the book, he talks about that his wife Tabitha, her writing style totally drives him bonkers because she's messy and she has piles of things everywhere, and he doesn't know how she works that way. You have to figure out what works for you and do that and establish yourself a pattern of behavior. Now, you know the assignment, you've scheduled your time, and you are in your writing zone. So it's time to start. This is going to take us to the worksheet, the writing and outline worksheet. I've given you two variants of this on Blackboard. You have the writing and outline worksheet basic. You have it in Word format and PDF format. You also have the writing and argument outline worksheet, the writing and argument essay outline worksheet. You have the Word version of it as well as the PDF. So there are two that I've given to you. The basic is much simpler, and the basic is more what we're going to be looking at here, though there are elements of the writing and argument essay worksheet here as well. So we're going to go ahead, take a look at this. It's very important. It begins this way. The writing and argument essay outline and process worksheet. The first thing we write down is our controversial topic. What is our topic? Write it down. Actually put it in writing. The next question that you ask yourself is this: what is the context of the assignment? Is this an essay? Is it a message? Is it a speech? What is the context of the assignment? What's going on with it? When is it due? How long do you have to write it? What's everything surrounding this? Is this half your grade, right? What's the context here? How important is this assignment? Then ask yourself, who is my audience? And write that down. Who's your audience? Oftentimes it may be your professor, but your professor may say to you that your specific target audience should be. So you make sure that you read your assignments thoroughly. Read the assignments that I give you thoroughly because there may be a specific audience listed. So who's my audience? You write that down. What is the context of the audience? Now, here's another one of those points where I'll be able to tell if you watch this video or not. Because invariably the students that don't watch the video will ask me a question about this. You can pass that along or not. Is what it is. So, what is the context of the audience? What is the audience's story? What do you need to know about the audience in order to write a message to them? So, are they old? Are they young? What's their demographic, right? Are they in a nursing home? Are they in a daycare? Is this a band? Is it, I was thinking like high school marching band. Is this a football team? Is this, who are you writing to? What's their story? What's going on around them? What's their context? Right? What's going on with the audience? What do you need to know about the audience in order to effectively write to them? Is this the academic club? And they all love big words, right? Or are you writing to a bunch of jocks? Generally, those two things don't combine. Sometimes they do. But you need to know something about your audience. And so that's your context of the audience. What's going on with the audience? What do you need to know about them in order to effectively write a message to them? Okay. Again, I'm going to say to you, I can tell who watches this video and who doesn't based on the questions I get asked. So what's going on with that audience? What do you need to know about them in order to effectively write to them? That is the context. Now, the next question is, what is your goal? Why are you bringing this message to this audience? Well, you're like, well, it's a Comp 1 essay. I have to do it. Okay, then write that down. Write down, what is your goal? My goal is to get an A. Why are you bringing this message? Because I have to. Now, that may change over time. You might have different answers there. Just depends. I mean, this is a great tool to use in any instance where you have to put together some ideas. Now we're going to generate ideas based off of our topic. We know who our audience is. We know what our topic is. We understand the assignment. So now we generate ideas. Some people do brainstorming sessions. Some people do clustering. That's where you write information here, here, here. Then you draw lines to connect them, and it gets really messy and chaotic. Some people like that. Free writing. I'm a personal fan of free writing. We're going to do a little bit of that. Drawing and sketching your ideas. That works for some people. Asking a lot of questions works for some other people. Outlining. Always outlining. That is a wonderful way to generate ideas. So we're going to be combining free writing into outlining in this process. So here is our free writing section. You know what your topic is. Write down no less than 15 things that you know about your topic, including opposing viewpoints. Keep your audience in mind. So you know your topic. Spend some time writing down everything you know about it, for it, against it. Write it all out. What you already know. Don't do any research. What do you already know? What's already in your brain? Write all that out. Okay. Take some time to do this. I'm just going to let that baby keep playing, because here's the thing. I want you to be thinking of word vomit. Free writing is word vomit. Chuck Wendig called it bleeding on the page. It's all the same idea. Let it out. What do you already know? Write it down. Dun, dun, dun. All right. Now look back over your word vomit, keeping your topic in mind, and ask yourself, what really is my opinion on this topic? It may not be what you originally thought it was. Read through the word vomit carefully. Write down your opinion. What's your opinion on the topic? Write it down. And here's my favorite joke. I love to share my favorite joke. You can't run through a campground. You can only ran because it's past tense. Ha ha! You're welcome. Moving on. Write down your opinion. Now, using your 15 things that you know about your topic, determine what your 3 main points are. Keeping the strongest point for last. Let your argument build. Let me move this. Oh, go back. Go back. I need to move this for a second. Let your argument build from the weakest to the strongest, though maintaining that all points must influence your audience. Use audience-based points. So always asking yourself, what will influence my audience? But we keep our strongest point last. We're building a pyramid. We go for the gut punch at the end, just like any preacher or politician does. They have a 3-point message, and the strongest one is always the last one. I mean, I want you to think about that. I want you to make that altar call. I want you to come forward, give all your money, right? I want you coming forward. I want you emotional with that last point. Come on now. Come on. Can I get an amen? Come on. I'm not trying to be facetious, and I don't mean to be offensive or hurt anyone's feelings. It's fact. It's fact. I went to Bible college. I took a class on how to prepare sermons. 3 main points. Strongest one last. That's how it goes. So, dun, dun, dun. We're going to do the same thing. Next comes the dreaded, elusive, fright-inducing, self-esteem busting thesis statement. I remember being in high school and hating writing a thesis statement. I remember feeling like I was too dumb to figure it out. I remember feeling that way. Like it's somehow, sometimes I got them right, sometimes I was way off the mark, and I didn't understand why. I didn't understand why. And it took me a long time. It took me teaching HVAC students and electrical students and welding students before I fully understood how to put together a thesis statement. I had to figure out, how do I teach these men who have no interest in taking an English class, how do I teach them what a thesis statement is when I don't even fully understand how a thesis statement works either? So I did some reading, and as I did with most things in that course, I had to figure out how to break it down into language that they would understand or even care to listen to. Let's don't put it that they would understand. Let's put it this way, that they would care to listen to, because that's the truth of the matter. How can I put it in such a way that they would be like, okay, that has value for me, right? And so I came up with this. This is the thesis statement formula. Ta-da! So excited about it. Opinion, which you already have, plus the word because, plus your three main points equals a thesis statement. Ta-da! Breathe, please. It really can be this simple. You already know what your opinion is. Make sure that you state it boldly. Boldly state your thesis, your opinion in your thesis statement. Because three main points. That's what we're looking for here. I feel this way because XYZ. And that's our beginning thesis statement. It doesn't have to be the final draft thesis statement, but it's where we begin. And that's an effective way to begin to craft that. So create a thesis statement from your opinion and your three main points. This is one sentence. It must be debatable and tell what your essay presentation will be about. It must pass the so what test. So what that means is you don't want somebody to read your thesis statement and go, so what? No, you want them to read your thesis statement and be like, oh, did you say that? So it needs to be bold. It needs to actually be an opinion, right? Like an opinion that somebody else might think. Like I used that word bone chilling last week. Bone chilling. Like that's the kind of language you want to throw into a thesis statement. Like you're going to say that Stephen King's short story, The Man Who Loved Flowers, is bone chilling. Somebody else is going to be like, no, it wasn't. It was boring. But you say bone chilling, they're immediately going to be going, I don't know about that. So use strong words in a thesis statement, strong adjectives. Now, it's not just me that says a thesis statement should be one sentence. I'm sharing this with you. This is from SNHU, their library. How long should my thesis statement be? Down here it says, thesis statements are often one sentence. However, in some cases, e.g., a very in-depth or detailed paper, which we are not writing, it may be appropriate to include a longer thesis statement. So we are doing one sentence thesis statements. You might need to use a semicolon in there instead of a period. If you've got two independent clauses and you're just struggling, just put a semicolon in between them. Don't break it up into two sentences. Keep it as one sentence. Okay? Next thing here. Oh, fancy. Whoa, I mean it. For our class, your thesis statement is one sentence. One, just one, no more, just one. One is not a lonely number for a thesis statement. One will do. If your thesis is more than one sentence, I will deduct points. No questions, no excuses, one sentence. Opinion plus because plus three main points equals thesis. Now, on to the outline. So, to begin to create our outline, because we already have our opinion, we already have our three main points, and we've already created our thesis statement. So we come to the actual outline portion. Let's skip the introduction for now. Okay, go to the thesis. Well, you already have your thesis, so write it down. Done. Your main point one, you already have that, so write it in the subpoint or in the space there. Now, the rest of this information you can fill in. You can use your word vomit to maybe fill in some subpoints. You might find some subpoints for main point one in your word vomit. You also might, in your word vomit, find the counter argument. If you do, write it down. Okay. You might need to fill in these subpoints and counter argument with a little bit of research once we have the outline created. But if not, just go ahead, have your main point one written out, and then make subpoints A, B, and C If you need a space for counter argument, you want to add that too. If you use the actual worksheet that I've got for you, this is all there and you just fill in the blanks. You do the same thing for main point 2 and the same thing for main point 3, which is your strongest point. All right. Once you get those completed, well, let's finish it up. The last section is this, your restated thesis. Well, you already know what your thesis is, so flip it. 3 main points lead to my opinion, blah, blah, blah. Flip your thesis statement and write it down here. Now, we've got our whole outline pretty much. We're not fully complete, but you have the basic tenets of your outline at this point. At this point, you want to go in and you want to think about, well, how am I going to hook people to listen to me? Well, tell a story. And so write out what story it is that you might tell up there in that introduction section. And then here at the end, drop the mic closing. How can I have some kind of a call to action? How can I leave people thinking and feeling? What can I say at this point that's going to make people go, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you said that. Right? It's awesome. So at that, look what you did. You made an outline. Whoop, 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 whoop. Good for you. Now that was the writing an essay argument outline worksheet. The basic one doesn't include the counter arguments or the introduction or the drop the mic conclusion portions. It's just very basic. Now you are ready to do some research. Once you have your basic outline, a basic outline structure, no matter which of the worksheets you choose to use, once you have your outline started and basically pulled together, that's when you begin to do research. When you have an idea of where you're headed with this argument, that's when you start to do research. So you're doing more focused research rather than just willy-nilly out there in the world trying to make something make sense on paper. Don't do that. Get yourself focused first by creating an organized structure using an outline, and then do your research. There are tools on Blackboard under handouts. You have the writing process poster. You have the writing and argument essay outline worksheet and the writing and outline worksheet. All right. So those are there for you under handouts. I'm going to try to remember to put them under week 4 as well. So, in the online class, we are not in the classroom together, so we're not going to do this practice right now. Your homework. You are going to select a news story on anything. I don't care what it is, a news story, something current in the world today. And you're going to complete the writing and outline worksheet. Be opinionated and organize yourself. We're not writing the essay. We're just filling out the outline worksheet. You're just going to outline your thoughts and your opinion. Okay. There's also the discussion thread over the writing process, and we will begin essay 2. Right? And we're going to take a look at what essay 2 consists of on the next few slides. So that might feel like a lot to you right now, but that's what we're doing for homework. Yes. All right. Essay 2, the narrative. This is going to be you telling a story. So think of a time when you experienced a strong emotion due to a specific occurrence or situation. It's cause and effect. This could be positive or negative. It's up to you. Whatever you feel comfortable digging into. Close off all distractions and word vomit. Use the rule of Apple. Put yourself back into the situation and write out everything that you remember. Tell your story. The thesis should be an introduction to why this story. Why are you telling this story? There's a reason you chose it. It means something to you. What lesson did you learn from it? How could your story help someone else? Why should they know this story? What might be your hope for another person in a similar situation? So use all 5 senses, be descriptive, go for it. You cannot hurt my feelings or shock me. Let this be therapeutic for you. When this assignment was for me, it was the first thing that I had published. Let yourself go bleed on the page, only make sure to edit when you are done. Yeah, I had this assignment in a memoir class. I wrote out my childhood nightmare, and when I turned it in, my professor told me that I needed to see about getting it published in a horror magazine. And of course, I was like, me in a horror magazine? That's funny. I'm a mom of six, right? Like I've been a stay-at-home mom all these years. But he challenged me and I went for it, and it ended up getting published in a magazine, and that was very exciting, in a literary journal. So yeah, awesome sauce. But it was only because I chose to use my senses and I chose to just let go, bleed on the page, word vomit, use the rule of apple. So I didn't know the rule of apple then, but it'll work, right? So we're looking at 4 pages here, 4 full pages. Get your MLA format correct, run Grammarly, and upload it to Blackboard for 100 points, right? So you're telling a story, something in your life, and there's a reason why you're choosing this story. And so your thesis statement's going to have to do with what did you learn from it and what can someone else learn from this story? Okay. Criteria for success on Essay 2, upload your final draft as a PDF. If it's not a PDF, I'll take points. The audience is your choice. Only keep it directed toward them as you write. MLA format. There's a link here. Use the MLA example paper at this link as a resource. Times New Roman 12-point font. Classic double space. Remove Word's default setting of 0.8 extra space for every click of enter. And there's a link to the handout, how to make your essay classic double space. Make sure that you have an opinionated thesis statement in 1 sentence. Put the thesis in bold print or formatting. And then if you have quotes, ensure MLA in-text citations are correct. Periods come after parenthetical citations. Again, use the following resources to ensure your MLA is correct, and there is a link to MLA resources there. Watch your punctuation issues. Ensure that you've run a grammar checker on your essay. This is to be 1,250 words, which is right at 4 pages, not including the works cited page. If one is necessary, it might not be necessary. If you have quotes, there's a minimum of 1 in-text quote or paraphrase per page, up to 3 quotes or paraphrases per page. Explain why the quote paraphrase is included. Assume the audience is ignorant. Be specific and clear. Use quotes and paraphrases if needed in this essay. Setups and signal phrases must be included for all in-text quotes or paraphrases if you used any. See the How to Increase Your Word Count handout for assistance. And then the works cited page, if required, is required if quotes and paraphrases are used in MLA format, classic double spaced. See the MLA example paper for assistance. All right, and that brings us to the end, right? Good stuff. Very good stuff. I'm going to pause for just a moment. I'm going to check something. I'll be right back. All right. I have checked what I needed to check, and I wanted to make sure that I was all finished up for this week before I let you go. We are. That's it for week 4. So if you have any questions, you know how to get a hold of me, 918-994-2324. Text me if you have any questions at all. Remember, you are your own advocate while you were in college. Everything is on you. I'm going to do my best to help. But with that, I'm going to close us out for week 4. That is all she wrote.